You're just in time because here in the Pig Pen, we're always ready to talk about some great football history. And tonight, we're going on a hog hunt deep in the state of Arkansas. Our guest tonight, Rod Lovan, is going to talk about his team, the Razorbacks, as we talk about Razorbacks to Razors and everything in between with Rod in just a second.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And welcome to another episode where we get to talk about some great college football history. And in the Pig Pen today, very appropriately, are the Hogs. Yes, we're going to be talking about Arkansas Razorback football with our friend Rod Lovan. Rod, welcome to the Pig Pen.
Thanks for having me, Darren. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Rod, this is an exciting time. Your company has been a sponsor of Sports History Network, and we greatly appreciate that and your products, and you shared some products with me. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. So my wife, Mandy, and I started this company in late 2011. I was still on active duty at the Army at the time. And
thank you for your service.
My pleasure. I had recently started wet shaving. It's old style shaving with a safety razor, a soap, and a brush that you build a lather and paint it on your face yourself. A friend of mine in the Army had suggested I try that to deal with, when you shave every day and get razor bumps and razor burn from having to shave before formation and then go out and do PT, run, whatever it may be. It used to tear my face up, and he suggested I try old style wet shaving as a solution to that. And it worked. I mean, rubbing one blade across my face instead of 3 or 5 at a time made a huge difference and kept me from a lot of irritation and ingrown hairs. So my wife and I had started making soap, just bath soap at the time, and I'd used a puck of the shave soap that she had bought me for my birthday, and I thought, you know what, I could probably make something better than this. And so, we started working, and at this time, the company was just a hobby. It was just something we were doing for fun. We never really intended to make a career out of it, because I intended to do my 8 more years to get 20 in the Army and retire out of that. But so we started making shave soap, and then when I realized that I didn't want to go another 8 years in the military, we thought, okay, well, let's see if Sterling Soap would support our family. And so that's what we started doing. And that's what we're known for. We have bath soap, lotions, aftershaves, colognes, any type of bath and body product you can think of. But where we made our name for ourselves is in the wet shaving world with shaving soap and a brush. And so that's how we got to where we are today, to where we're not just self-employed, but we employ 20 other people along with us that make their careers helping us make soap and ship it all over the world.
Yeah, and folks, I just learned before we came on, not only is Rod doing that, he's a veteran of our armed forces, a hero to us and protect our freedom, and he's a farmer. He's producing food and things to help our economy go and help us eat every day. So we appreciate you for that too. You're a busy guy down there, Rod.
Yeah, it's a lot of work sometimes, but I enjoy doing it. Mandy and I have 3 young sons, and that's the main reason we keep the farm. Is I like them having things to do, and they enjoy. We've got cows, we've got sheep, and a handful of chickens, and they enjoy doing it. So, and it's fun for us, keeps us from being sedentary, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are in the state of Arkansas, and we can tell by your coffee cup that we can see in the foreground here, you are an Arkansas Razorbacks fan, and I'm told a super fan. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became, an Arkansas fan, and maybe some of your experiences with Arkansas football?
Sure. So if you if you like football and growing up as a kid in Arkansas, I mean, there's no pro sports. The Razorbacks they are your pro team. And so, you know, from a very young age, my dad would take me to local high school football games, and on Saturdays, if Arkansas was lucky enough to be the game of the week, we would sit down, and that would be 2.5, 3 hours of our afternoon. And it's just, you grow up in that. You have a lot of memories, not just, not with just with my dad and my brothers, but with my grandfather as well, just growing up cheering for the Razorbacks. And so, from the mid '80s on, or about where I can really start remembering, being a Razorback fan, and having a love for a team, kind of growing you. And it's just now, I'm in my 40s, and it's just a way of life now. I'm probably not the super fan that spends every spare dime I have on going to games and merchandise and things like that. But I always make time and follow the Razorbacks, football, basketball, baseball.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a common story. I mean, I know I live in Pennsylvania, lived all my life, and of course, we got Penn State football on, but I'm more of a Notre Dame fan. So don't tell my dad that, he'll be upset. But I think movie like Rudy and things like that sort of affected me. But Arkansas has got a really neat football history that if I was diving into it a little bit, there's programs started in 1894. So this is, within a decade of really football becoming football, American football turning from rugby and everything, 'cause it happened in 1880. And for the first 20 years or so, 25 years, they weren't even called the Razorbacks. They were called the Cardinals, which I thought was kind of amazing. And I guess that's where they got their colors from, the cardinal red that they have. And they got named because I just mentioned Penn State. There's a Penn State and Arkansas connection. They had a common coach, Hugo Bezdek, who actually coached in the NFL later on and coached at Oregon and a bunch of other places. But Hugo Bezdek in 1909, they had a great undefeated season. They swept through the Southeastern Conference, beating Oklahoma and LSU and some other big name teams. And he was getting off the train. People welcomed them, when they came in, and he made the statement that his players were like a bunch of wild hogs, a bunch of wild Razorbacks, and it caught on. And the next year, school year, the student body of Arkansas voted and said, "We don't want to be the Cardinals anymore. We want to be, something mean and nasty. We want to be Razorbacks." And I mean, it does, it strikes fear into the opponent when you hear Razorbacks compared to Cardinal. That isn't as fearful. But I think that's a pretty cool name. It's very unique, and that's how they got it. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is neat, unique. I mean, there's not, at least in college sports. I know Texarkana has a Razorback mascot, but as far as college and pro sports, Razorback's unique. I mean, there's nothing else like it. And when you have things like the main cheer, the Woo Pig Suey. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where they call the hogs. There's nothing like it in sports. It's just one of those things that's unique, and
is that a tradition? Is that like happen before a game, or I mean, tell us a little bit about that tradition.
So calling the hogs, they'll do it before every game, but they'll do it, during timeouts as well. Like it's just another thing. It's esprit de corps. It's pumping the team up, pumping the fans up. It's just something. It's been done for longer than I've been alive. Honestly, I probably something I should know, but I don't know when the hog call first came into effect and who was the first one to do it. That's probably embarrassing for me to not know that, but it's just something that's always been there my entire life. You do Woo Pig Suey Razorbacks, and it's pretty neat to see 75,000 fans at Razorback Stadium doing it in unison. Not right now, because the football team's been kind of shoddy for the past decade, ever since we had a fateful motorcycle ride. But normally when you have all the Razorback fans in the stadium and doing the hog call all at once, it's pretty neat to experience.
Well, I can help you out here on a little bit on the history, because the history actually started in the 1920s, and the team had an away game and they won the game. I forget who it was against, but when they came back, there was a group of fans waiting for them to get off the train, and most of them were some farmers, and they were out there yelling, "Woo pig suey" and some of that, and that's where the tradition began, according to the page on Arkansas football. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing too.
That is
So
awesome. Thank you for teaching me that. That's
yeah.
good to know.
Yeah. So, who are some of the players during your experience of watching that you really, fell in love with watching? And you said, "Okay, this is the guy I got to watch Saturday. I'm watching this guy as the game's going on today."
So when I was a kid, it was Quinn Grovey. Back when I was, before I was even a teenager, he was running the triple option under Ken Hatfield, and it was just so fun to watch. Just never knowing where the ball was going to be or where it was going to end up or who was actually going to be making the run. And Arkansas had some really, really good underrated teams. During the Danny, not Danny Ford, the Ken Hatfield years when Quinn Grovey was running the show. Um, they just never could get over the hump. They'd always have the one game where the option got shut down, and that's the problem with an offense like that. You get a little bit behind in the score, and you're forced to start passing no matter what, and that's not your forte. And it just, I think, for a lot of fans, or it probably felt like well, we've reached our pinnacle. It's time to move on. We need to find something else but I mean, that's a whole nother story. I think that's more between Frank Broyles and Ken Hatfield than anything else. But if you made me tell you my all-time favorite player, it'd have to either be Darren McFadden or Matt Jones.
Oh, two great choices.
I don't know that college football has had I know that the kid from Boise State this year put up some insane numbers, but as far as just just an old style run right over you, run right up the middle, and you're not catching me. I don't think we've seen anything like Darren McFadden since him. Maybe you know maybe Derrick Henry. I don't know, but I absolutely loved watching McFadden play because on any play he could be gone. And the same thing for Matt Jones. The Matt Jones years were probably some wasted talent. But he was at any time the guy could just be gone. I mean, you would think you could have him down, and the next thing you know, he's prancing through the end zone, and it's just exciting players to watch. And the fact that both of them were homegrown Arkansas products, that people grew up knowing who they were in high school, and so that means a lot still down here.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Now, I mean, you've had some great coaches there, like you said, and I told you earlier, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and told you about Penn State having a shared thing. Well, Lou Holtz, the famous Notre Dame coach, coached at Arkansas in the late '70s and took them to some pretty good heights, including an Orange Bowl appearance against Oklahoma, 10-1 record, and really got his teeth in college football at Arkansas. So that's kind of a cool thing. I didn't realize that Lou Holtz was out at Arkansas.
Yeah, he'll forever be loved here for the I think it was '78 Orange Bowl. I mean, they were bad underdogs in that game, and they'd had two of their starting running back and a couple other starters had gotten in trouble and were suspended for the game, and they absolutely punched Oklahoma in the mouth. And it's like I said, I wasn't even alive at that point. I was still 7 months away from being born, but I've known about that game my entire life. My dad's old basketball referee partner was an offensive lineman on that team. It's just something you know about. And I grew up a Notre Dame fan as well because I grew up in Catholic boys schools. So I've got a framed Rudy jersey at my office. I wish I was in my office for this. I've got a frame, with my Razorback gear that I have in the office. I've got a framed Rudy Rudiger jersey that's autographed in there. And yeah, the connection between Lou Holtz and Arkansas and Notre Dame was always cool to me growing up as well.
Yeah, I think that's true. I went to Catholic school too, when I was younger, and I think that the nuns sort of beat that into you. You know, you're a Notre Dame fan, and
Yeah.
maybe that's where I got it from. And so, but I'm glad to see it's happening all across the country. So too, so that's kind of a neat thing. I mean, they have a great array of Hall of Famers that have come out of there. You know, not only Bezdek and Darren McFadden, like you talked about, and Dan Hampton made it in College Football Hall of Fame just this past year as an
Yeah.
offense tackle, played for the Bears. And Lou Holtz is in there from Arkansas. And just there's just a long list of probably a little over dozen, between a dozen and 20 players and coaches with Arkansas roots that have made it in College Football Hall of Fame. So that's quite a testament to the program for 131 years or so they've been playing. So that's kind of a neat thing too.
Yeah, if you look at I mean, most of the all-time rankings of teams, Arkansas usually falls in the around the number, somewhere between 18 and 25. And if you look at revenues of football, Arkansas deserves a little bit better than the records they've put up over the last 12 years. It's been being a Razorback fan is hard to begin with, but the last 12 years being a Razorback fan has been, especially for football, has been absolutely miserable. There have been far more downs than ups, and I think most of us are either numb to it now or just, if something good starts happening for the football team, you're almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. And
Hmm.
just, okay, so when are we going to blow this lead, or when are we going to lose the next four and drop out of the rankings, something like that. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's all cyclical. Eventually, it'll turn it around because I mean, there's still a lot of support for the university. They bring in a huge amount of revenue still, and it's just, you know it's a different animal now than it was when I was growing up. We've got a 16 team SEC now that's
Hmm.
that is just full of monsters. Full of blue chip football programs. So it's hard for a smaller state with a university like Arkansas to they're never going to be in Alabama, but they shouldn't be kicked around every year the way they have been for the past Baker's dozen years.
Well, you never know because look at I mean, it's a great conference. I sort of like the super conferences, myself. I think it's kind of entertaining because this year we had a good ball game on every single Saturday, even at noon. You had good games. You had it all through the day. Before the old style, you had some real sleepers. You'd have Alabama playing some uh, you know Division One AA school or something. Like, okay, this isn't much fun to watch them beat the snot out of somebody. But you have some competitive games going on all through the season. But I think there's, like you said, it's cyclical, and you had teams like Ole Miss this year. I mean, they made some noise in the SEC with all the big boys, especially with Texas and Oklahoma coming in with all the powerhouses that are already in the SEC. I thought that was kind of fun to watch. Just everybody about knocking heads. Same thing in the Big Ten. I thought that was kind of fun to watch with sort of the Pac 10 teams coming in and
Yeah.
competing with some of the things. That's a lot of fun, and that's what us as football fans want. We want competition. We want two evenly matched teams, and beating a snot out of each other, scoring touchdowns, or a defensive, scoreless tie. I like those too. I like evenly matched games. I think that's
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like the fact that they does seem more competitive now. Like you said, the fans no one likes seeing, Alabama beat up on Little Sisters of the Poor. I would much
right.
rather see, before that, I would much rather see, like you said, a 16 team super conference where every week you're playing someone that's going to give you a good game in most cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And programs come and rise, all the time. I mean, look at 10 years ago, would you think that Oregon would be a powerhouse? They were kind of okay, they're out there on the West Coast and they were getting beat up on the West by West Coast teams. not the, they were ranked number one for most of the season this year. That was kind of a cool thing, especially moving into a bigger conference. So I think there's a time and place for everybody, and I think Arkansas is going to have their day. They just got to get the right coaching in there, get some recruiting in there, some players, and they'll get the right mix one of these days, and you'll be proud to have that Razorback coffee cup.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of the products that Sterling Soap and the Sterling Roastery have, and share where people can get their hands on them too.
Okay, so I mean, we sell all over the world. We've got a handful of stores scattered out. I mean, not that we own, but resellers that sell it, buying our products wholesale and sell throughout the United States. But our main storefront is here in Paris, Arkansas, right on the square, and that's also where we ship from. 90% of our business is online at sterlingsoap.com. Sterling with an I, like the city, not the silver.
Okay.
But it's sterlingsoap.com, and that's where 90% of our orders come from. So while we have a really nice storefront here, I mean, it's small town rural Arkansas, so we don't have a ton of in-store traffic. If we were just relying on foot traffic to keep us afloat, we would have been out of business 30 seconds after we opened. It's our website that keeps us running. So, and that's where we ship from. We ship orders all over the United States, and we've got resellers all over the world at this point. I like to tell people, that one of the cool things about us, we sell more soap in Italy than we do in Arkansas.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
by a long shot. So we through our distributor in Italy, we've got almost every country in the EU has at least one store that carries Sterling soap now. So
Amazing.
you can get our products just about anywhere. We've got resellers in China, South Korea,
Wow.
South America. It's
Good for you.
definitely.
Congratulations on that. That's cool.
Thank you. It is cool. I mean, because like I say, it was something that started as a hobby, um, just so my wife and I weren't sitting around on our butts watching TV all night. Because when I got back from my third tour in Iraq, we didn't have any kids at the time, and we'd come up with the idea when we were on our honeymoon in Scotland that, hey, we should try making soap, and that's where the name comes from. It's from Stirling, Scotland, because that's where we first hatched the idea that we should make soap as a hobby. So when we decided to become a company, that we threw it back to that, just as a thanks to that town to inspiring us to do something. But even that, we never expected it to be anything more than me and her making soap and selling it at like farmers markets and things like that. We never expected it to be something where we're selling all over the world, and not only do we make a good living doing this, we enable other people to make a good living doing this. And
Uh,
so
that's the
it's
American dream, brother.
it really is. I mean, you're not the first person that's told us that, and it's certainly not lost on us. Like I say, because we are very blessed to be where we're at. Because like I said, we got in at the right time. When we started our company, we originally were just doing bath soap, and like I said, we started on the shave soap right about the time that wet shaving was experiencing a renaissance. And so you had a lot of people moving over to wet shaving because to them, it's a better way of shaving. Yeah, it may take you a minute, 2 minutes longer in the morning to do it, but their skin felt better because they're using an actual natural soap product on their face versus, some chemicals they pumped out of a can, and they're using a single blade and versus a 3 or 5 blade. But the big thing is, for me, for my razor, I can buy a 100 pack of blades for about $10, whereas $10 will get you 2 Mach 5, replacement cartridges.
If that.
And so you had a lot of, all these things came together in a perfect storm, and a lot of people moved into wet shaving, creating this resurgence in wet shaving. And so we got in at the exact right time. And so as wet shaving grew, our company continued to grow, and and we've been able to, whereas a lot of companies like us have come and gone in the last 13 years, we've managed to maintain a foothold and continue to grow by adding more products. So we're not just doing shaving soap, aftershave, post shave balms, and things like that. We've got lotions, beard oils, beard balms, lip balms, colognes, and candles, wax melts, things like that, and brushes, razors, anything you can think of. And then in 2019, we moved over into coffee because we figured, if you're not buying a 12 pack of Dial or Irish Spring, if you're using good soap, there's probably a good chance that you're not drinking floor scrapings for your coffee. You're probably drinking specialty coffee. So that's when we moved into roasting our own coffee. And so that's a completely, while it's sold through Sterling Soap, Sterling Roastery is its own company that is wholly owned by my wife. So it's a woman veteran owned company that she runs, and
Wow.
I stay hands off unless she just needs me to.
So,
But it
these are her own mixtures, like the house blend I'm drinking. This is a recipe that she put together with
that
the
is
roasting and everything.
100% her.
Wow.
She roasts all the coffee. She puts together the blends. She decides which country's beans are going to be that we're going to be buying. So I mean, we buy our beans a pallet or two at a time from an importer out of Minneapolis, and so we're getting beans from Colombia, Ethiopia, Brazil,
Mhm.
Indonesia, just all over the world. And then there, and the difference between like what we're using and what you'll get at say from your local grocery store or even at Starbucks, they're specialty grade beans. They're hand sorted, and so there's any beans that have imperfections or anything like that are pulled out as they're coming through the line. And she's roasting the best of the best, and she roasts them
Do,
really well.
do you folks ever sleep? Holy cow! All the things you got going on. Your wife's, mother and three young boys, and you're roasting coffee, picking out beans, making soap. Holy smolies! That's guys, I got a busy life down there. You're definitely not watching TV like you said.
That's what the coffee is to keep us going. And we do. There are plenty of times, believe me, where we sit the boys down and it's like, all right, we're gonna watch a movie or we're gonna play some video games for a while so mama and papa can rest.
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, that is really incredible, and what a great story your family's been in your company. And I'm glad you told us about how the Sterling name came on because that's pretty cool too. You guys are over in Scotland and on a honeymoon and picking that name. Because I kept trying to make the connection. That was one of the questions I was going to ask you. So I'm glad you said that and then told us that. 'Cause that's really cool. Very interesting, sir. You have a great life, a great company, and have great products. And I'll tell you what, my experience, I shared it with my listeners the other day. You sent me some samples, and one of them is the post shave balm. Is that what you called it? I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is like a lotion, just to moisturize my face. It's pretty dry up here in Pennsylvania, middle of February. It's cold up here, and I'm thinking, okay, I can use some moisture. So I put a little bit of that on, and holy cow, man, I was it was uchi wawa. I was woke up and really exciting. Your face comes alive with that, and the aftershave too. So it's some good stuff, and it really makes you feel good in the morning after a shave. So I appreciate that. And then I sat down and had some Sterling Roastery coffee that your wife handmade, and that was great too. I was ready to go to work. I was flying all day, so I appreciate you.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Quick anecdote: when I first knew we'd made it as a company, back to the name. Still to this day, a lot of people will, like if they're writing reviews or they're sending us an email, they'll write it Sterling, Sterling Soap, that way. And when we realized the day had come that you could type in Sterling with an E into Google, even if you typed in Sterling Soap, Google would redirect you to the correct Sterling Soap. And I was like, we've made it.
Yeah, you got some popularity now. Google's recognized you. So so if somebody just tell us real briefly, if the novice is, maybe you got some folks interested in the shaving aspect of it, sort of the old style shaving. And you've got a lot of videos on how-tos and everything, but if somebody wants to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about like your starter packs for somebody who wants to get into that style of shaving?
Sure. So we've got 3 different levels of starter packs. And you can buy stuff a la carte, but we discount our starter packs, just super heavily, just as a way to get people to try it out, to get their foot in the door. And so like we got a budget kit, a basic kit, and a deluxe kit. And the budget kit's all you really need. It comes with a synthetic brush. It comes with a handful of shaving soap samples that are, it's enough soap for probably 2 to 3 months worth of shaving. It'll come with a sampler pack of blades and the razor, and it'll come with an aftershave sample as well. So and it comes with it, rather than just using a normal pack of blades, we do a sampler pack. So there's a saying in the wet shaving community: your mileage may vary, because one blade that works for one person, another person may absolutely hate. So you get a chance to try a handful of different blade brands in your razor and see which one your skin is the most comfortable with. I mean, everyone's skin is different. Everyone's hair, some people have really wispy, thin beards, and some people have, super wiry, barbed wire beards that you need a weed eater to whack through. So, but our budget kit is really all you need to get started, and it's around $30. And it'll be enough to easily, shave for a few months and learn, just this style of shaving. Because to be honest, there is a learning curve. If you go in like you're shaving with a Schick or a Gillette Mach 5 or whatever, and press a safety razor against your face, you're going to draw a little blood. But for those, it's very rare that we get somebody that gives it a full 3 weeks and learns the ins and outs of wet shaving. It's very rare that we have someone that goes back to modern, cartridge razor shaving and shaving with can gel or foam.
That's incredible, and I'm glad you're bringing back some of these old lost arts and some things. Those before us had better ideas and some great ideas to do it. Because I remember my grandfather having those style razors, and just amazed by the mechanical aspect of it, which is kind of cool when you're a kid. But it's doing a good job shaving too. So, folks, if you're driving or you're not available to go online right now and go to the site, we're going to have the links in the show notes of both the podcast and the YouTube channel, so you can get to Rod's products, both the shaving and the coffee. I highly recommend both sides. You're going to want to take a look at those and get some of those sample packs and get started in this and get involved in this. And like I told you at the top, we were going to talk about razors to Razorbacks and everything in between, and we certainly have done that. And Rod, we thank you for joining us today, sharing Arkansas football history and telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your products.
Thanks so much for having me, Darren. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm really glad to be able to come on. But I'm glad to support, the entire Sports History Network and the Pigskin Dispatch. It's a blast.
And all of us at Sports History Network greatly appreciate you for what you're doing and supporting us, and for coming on our shows too. So thanks a lot, Rod.
My pleasure.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.